from me too, buddy. And we're live. We're live. Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here out there on YouTube and on Facebook and over here on Twitch, locals, and over there on Twitter too, or X. I'm having trouble with the X thing. I don't know why. I just am. But
X marks the spot.
all right. Anyway, boy, I don't know where to start tonight. John the Fisherman has joined. All right, John. Yeah. Flesh RB too, right? All right. Anyway, hello, Timmy and Canuck and Clemmer, Susan, Quake Cat, or Kitty Cat as I call her. I'm trying to soften her up, man. She's a good gal. She's smart, and I like it. And big T-shirt Billy's out there, finally. Simply Sue, Dub Diesel in the AZ, Brainstorm Warning, and King of Snarls. I know Brain has got his own channel, and he's here and there, and yeah. But beep beep. That's Clem's Primus style, eh? Oh, okay. I don't know what Primus means, but hey, okay. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I'm the deadliest. Yeah. There you go, big boy. Anyway, because I know Canuck is on it, the last thing I heard regarding Iceland is that the magma chamber is filling again. And
it's speeding up.
It's speeding up and it's rising again.
Yeah.
And they're expecting another 2 eruptions by the end of the summer. And at least from what I understood. What else have you got for us on that?
Well, the last I read, which was a couple days ago, they were thinking 30 days, within 30 days for sure. So probably by the end of this month or early August. So they're
erupting again in the same spot or somewhere else?
Yeah, same spot.
The same spot, yeah.
Because they figure it's got to fill up with 20 million cubic meters of magma again before it'll blow out. But it's
pretty close to that.
No, it's sped up on the rate that it's doing it. So they think it's going to get to that point faster because it was going really slow before.
All right.
Like when it first started re-inflating, but now it's going faster again. So based upon how it's going the last few days, they think it's going to take, well, I heard some of them say 14 days, but most of the other people said 30 days.
Do you think one of the feeder tubes from down below the magma chamber is opened up more and it's be able to slug hotter magma in there faster?
Well, see, it slowed down at first when the eruption stopped, which it did that other times, where it slowed down a bit, like when it started filling up right at the beginning, but then it sped back up again, and that's what it's doing now. Okay. So when it was going slow at first, they thought, well, maybe it's not going to start filling up faster. It'll just slow down or stop, but it's actually sped up again and gone back up for its rate, what it did the other times when it was filling it up before.
Yeah, the reports from yesterday, at July 2nd, 1700 UT. So he read it. The last eruption was May 29th. Yeah. What is it? The reservoir estimated to be 4 to 6 cubic meters per second during the diking event of May 29. The eruption is estimated volume to drop from the reservoir was 13 to 19 million cubics. Current modeling results indicate that this total volume loss will be recharged by Svartfensingi Reservoir within the next 3 to 6 weeks. And today is likely the time frame for the next event.
Yeah.
3 to 6 weeks, man. And what I heard was they don't think the power station is going to survive because where it's going to erupt, Fartfinsingi. And the Blue Lagoon's a goner too. They're raising.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because it might come over the walls in more than one spot. Right?
Yeah, and the
Worried about.
the power.
So it's
station
not.
is
It's
in a
yeah.
valley,
It's not.
a bowl, the bottom of a bowl.
Yeah, and it's not just where it came over the wall this time.
Right.
There's a wall around on the other side there too, between Silingerfall and Thorburn itself. Well, it's high on that side too. So if there's another eruption, it could come over that wall. So it could come at the power station from two directions.
Right.
So they've already said they're going to raise the walls, but
they're already done. I'm watching them raise the walls.
But do they have enough time to do all of it is the question.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Do
they have time to put another wall inside the main wall?
They did that too. Yeah. Last I saw.
Well, it's cost them 7 billion krona, which is Iceland.
I mean, kind of like building snow fences. You know what I mean, Canuck?
Yeah. Yeah, but they can only do that so many times, right, before they're in the station.
Yeah.
Right.
And they made the station inside of a bowl, the bottom of the bowl. So it's like, hey, wait a minute, guys.
When it comes around the hill, that's where it's going to go, right? It's going to hit the lowest part.
And
or do they have time to dig a channel for that lava to go out? Just start ripping with a big dozer, and then have excavators start bailing it out.
Well, they got 3 dozers that I've seen out there, and just Icelandic put another. He just did another one out there. He's got to make his money because he's been doing a lot. But and I'm not even going to talk about the other dude because I don't like him. But he's always got something going on here. Moby has something. You can see where it's still burning hot, but you can't really see where they've gone. Unfortunately, I lost the link for here's Grindavik. Yeah, I got a live visual of Grindavik. They think that town's gone too, from what I heard. Is that what you heard as well there, Canuck?
Well, if the power plant ends up going, they won't be able. There'll be no power going to it, and there won't be any water to heat the houses or the buildings. So, and I guess what it is now, I think I forget what I read or watched, said something only 30% of the town it still owns stuff there. I think that's what I read.
Out of Grindavik.
Yeah. Everybody is pretty much else.
What the heck was that?
Fireworks.
Oh. I'm like, what?
It sounded
like I shot a shotgun right inside my garage.
I thought you kicked the trash can.
I thought it was like a massive explosion. It's like
no, I'm like, whoa.
World War III.
Yeah. I do see they are still working on it. I can't push it out there because of YouTube and copyright stuff, but trying to maintain legitimacy and they're all using the same stuff. RUV is, I think, Russian, but they're watching. That magma has risen pretty good, and it's interesting to see in a short time period. Like the eruption's been happening since from 21, right? It's when it first started. A lot of it was going on late 23 into 24 now, right?
Yeah.
How high do you think the magma has risen from the place it was at one time to where it is now, where the ground was there with the ancient, 800 years ago until now? It's some 60 feet.
Yeah, but that's why those hills are there, those big hills.
Yeah. See,
even though it was a long time ago, but that's what made all those hills, except it was under the ice, they say.
Oh, was it under the ice 800 years ago?
Yeah, so like when that did the fissure eruption under the ice, like if you read about
the little ice age, hey?
Yeah, if you read about Thorburn and the history of those mountains, that's what it did. So it did the fissure thing underneath, but it came up and got stuck under the ice, which that's why it made those round hills or circular hills.
Oh, you rounded on top. It was not erosion. It's just whatever.
Well, yeah, it probably has eroded down some, but how it was originally made, like if you read the history of it, that's what it says. So those were made by fissure eruptions under ice. Those hills.
Yeah, it's already July 4th over there. Huh. It's 2:20 in the morning and it's sunlight. Like, what? I guess they're on the backside of the planet.
And if you read about the lavas that are by, like where Blue Lagoon is and the power plant, they're from one on the eastern side of it is from 2,200 years ago, and the stuff on the western side of it is from 800 years ago.
Western side is 800, and the
east from the Eldvorp crater system.
And then the east is 1,200,
2,200, or 2,000, 2,200.
Okay,
they have that in the range. So basically, where Svartsengi is and the power station in Blue Lagoon is like two lava flows met. So 2,200 years ago or 2,000 years ago or whatever it was, it came from the Snooker crater system then.
Snooker,
yeah.
Yeah, see, who was it that did that?
Both sides were erupting back then, correct?
Well, in 2,200, it was Snooker. And 800 years ago, it was Eldvorp.
Okay.
But of course, back then, there was nobody around there to be in the way. Stuff.
Yeah. 3 years ago, when that eruption first happened, and you can see it from Reykjavik, that sucker shot up 1,100 feet.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's insane. And there is pictures of it if you need to see that. But I'm looking at Snooker right now, and it's just, gas, all over the place. It looks like a fog. I don't know, man. These hills around there, pretty insane. And I'll put inside of chat here, over there on Twitch. It's that's the 1,100 foot pop. It's pretty damn crazy, to tell you the truth. I mean, volcanoes do this all the time. They happen all the time. From what I understand, too, there's rhyolite, and then there's ignebrite or something like that, right? Am I correct, Canuck?
Yeah, well, there's different
Yeah.
types, but it's based upon like how explosive or whatever it is, I think.
The viscosity of it, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that and the gas. See, as the magma rises to the surface, it expands and it builds up pressure. And as it continues to rise, it builds more and more and more. And that's what,
Well, it's as you go up through the crust, there's less and less pressure, downward pressure, too.
Probably, I'm assuming. Yeah. Hey, Dub, how are you, buddy? Nice to see you out there.
I mean, just like if you put water under enough pressure, it won't boil at 500 degrees. It'll stay in a liquid state.
You were at the grocery store, lost connection. Okay. No worries, Dub. Yeah. Speaking of which, thank you.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Canuck, but isn't there like 3 times more water underneath the crust in the mantle than above the Earth's surface right now? Or on the surface?
Yeah, that's what they say, yeah. At least. I thought I read one time it said it 7 times, but who knows? I've seen other ones that say 3 times, so just depends.
Right.
Hard to tell. Till we can measure down there and figure it all out, I guess. That's just what we're trying to do with everything.
Till we invent a drill bit to go down that far.
Yeah. And then we'd hit it and make all the water come up.
Yeah, and then it would back pressure and throw the damn things right back at us, if not melt them.
Yeah.
I mean,
flood the planet, watch the crust sink.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, and I'm floods. Yeah, I'm like all over the place in my brain right now because I've been, looking at certain things regarding what happened around my location. Some 18 million years ago. But staying current, we've had a couple of earthquakes over there. There's been 33 quakes right now in that area of Iceland in the last 12 hours. So
you definitely know magma's moving.
It's yes, definitely moving. And the depth is between 5 and 1 or 13 and 1 kilometer. A lot of 1 kilometers, a lot of 5s, a 13, a 12. So, yeah. So way down deep is the 12 and 13. Then it hits the 5. And then most of the earthquakes are happening at 1.1 kilometers in the last 12 hours that I'm seeing here. So yeah, it's going to happen again. And I don't know where it's rising. Do you know where it's rising at, Canuck?
Well, under the magma chamber. So that's right under Svartsengi.
Fartsingi. All right.
Yep, Svartsengi, yeah.
Fartsingi's got a lot of gas, man.
Yeah, Svartsengi's going to blow up.
Yeah,
Yeah, you don't want to release the gas at Svartsengi. Could be trouble.
No.
Hey, Canuck, I mean, it might be kind of a stupid question, but the Mid-Atlantic Ridge that runs all the way from north to south, was that once together as a whole plate, like North America and Europe and Africa? Were they kind of like one plate back in a day, and then when the plates started, growing there and splitting, is that when kind of Iceland kind of formed, basically?
Yeah, because Iceland's fairly new, according.
Is it? Now that English woman that we put up there, oh my gosh, it was one of the big ladies. She's been there 25 years. She says it's not new. It's part of the Iceland continent. It's part of North America, or the North American continent. And there's a land bridge from there all the way over to Europe. That isn't, what do you call it? it sank because of the water, and the ice is melted. So, I mean, I don't know. It's all part of the same deal. So I
Yeah,
don't
but
know.
that's the same thing they say about the Kerguelen now too.
Kerguelen, yeah.
Yeah, the new studies that I just read from 2023, they're saying the same thing, that Kerguelen is like Iceland, except it's more underwater.
Right. And then there's the ones off of Australia, that continent that sank. Then there's the Azores that sank too. I learned a little bit last night doing some study, watching a dude teach us basically. And the Azores out in the middle of the Atlantic, when the ice melted, that shrank. I mean, it sank. So
Yeah.
it's subsided. So that's why the Azores, a lot of the Azores are underwater. They get like 1,000 foot down there, and you find shells that are normally shallow seas, like 100 foot, but they're down there 1,000 feet. So something has happened in the Azores where it collapsed, and I'm not going to go into what he thinks anymore about that, but I find it very odd how when ice melts the land rebounds, and then when there's more ice the land sinks and the ground opens up.
Well, when there was less water, right, that stuff probably would have been above the water. But now, because the ice is melted, there's more water, right? So that's what they're trying to say about these. Well, they call them different things. They call them igneous provinces or volcanic plateaus. So they are there. We just can't see them because they're underwater. But technically, you could say that about any piece of crust on the earth, right? Started out as igneous because that's how it was made. So that's what I find funny when they talk about all this stuff. Well, there wouldn't be any land for us to walk on if it wasn't erupted and was lava in the first place that cooled down, right? So technically, and like what they're saying, if you read the stuff about Kerguelen, they say it actually formed at the Triple Junction that broke apart Eastern Gondwana, which was Antarctica, India, and Australia. So that's where Kerguelen came from.
Okay, I'm looking for that. Gondwana. Where the hell's Gondwana?
Well, Gondwana was one of the continents that existed before.
Oh,
yeah,
no wonder I don't know where it's at.
Yeah, way back. So it would have been. I can't remember if it was after Pangea broke up. I think.
Okay. I'm showing Kerguelen on Twitch right now. I'll go ahead and show it on. There we go. Share this. Yep. All right. So you all see it, and let me make sure show on stream. There you go. So there's the Kerguelen. Here's the Indian, ridge right here. Here's Australia. Here's Africa. Kerguelen's always right here, and tell me I'm not wrong. That's the Texas liniment. The tech goes right through Kerguelen, or what do you call it?
Yeah, and if you read the new studies on it, because they did one on seismicity, how the seismicity goes is northwest to southeast on it. So I thought that was interesting because that matches my crazy idea.
Yeah, right through South Africa, Botswana, Namibia, Angola, or near Angola, and then through Ascension and all the way up into Alaska and all the way around again. Interesting. Prior to, I'm jumping ship here because I liked what you said. It was interesting. Let me see. How do I do this? Whoa. There's some bass in that one.
You're shaking the building.
Oh, I know, right?
Yeah.
Let me see here. Go like this. All right. So this is the latest quakes. I'm just putting it out there, like whatever. And then I'm going to save it. All right. And then when I go over here to pull it up, y'all are looking at that thing. When you talked earlier about something, because you said something you hadn't said before, and because you're the one that we kind of like, I'd say we kind of encourage you to talk about the lineaments, to say the least.
Well, we kind of lean on them too to talk about it.
Yeah, because it's an interesting concept, and I'm trying to get back to this map here so I can draw on it. Screen, window, and I think I can do it this way. Share, and this one here. Okay, cool. So now you can see that. This is something that Canuck hasn't said before, and he might have assumed that we knew what he was talking about. I'm going to roughly draw a line like this, and that's the Texas lineament. Okay? What's interesting, he said it over and over and over, but what I caught it differently today, Canuck, was let's call it 40 million years ago, or maybe longer than that, because it's more 1,000 miles. So 800 million years ago, the Texas lineament was at that location. And what he's saying is the progression, westward of the Texas lineament is pulling North America and the whole what do you call it?
Whole plate.
The whole plate with it. So, and whereas this was 100 million years ago, wherever 100 million years ago is, and then today at zero, you can almost trace, because North America, in my mind, it went north and then went like this, and now it's going like that. So it's almost like it's riding up the I'll just change the color. Well, no, see that. It's riding up the lineament as well as it's moving over with the lineament.
What plate did the North American plate ride over to get where we're at now?
Well, here I want to go back to Pangea, because that's when they were all together the last time. Supposedly.
Right, I have a picture of Pangea.
And so it was way south.
Yeah.
Well, it had to start moving north somehow to get up to where it is now. But see, that was before it started splitting apart, where the Atlantic Ocean is. And before you had the EPR going too. But
Right.
the EPR was before the mid-Atlantic ridge. So you have it cracking and then splitting apart. But what they're saying is that it does this over and over. At some point through whatever continent it is, even after it all smashes back together, it all, for whatever reason, it starts splitting apart and breaking apart and moving all around again.
This is
Right.
a part of
The
Pangea
plates are
that
changing directions all the time.
right.
Yep.
This is the part of North America. You can see the North sign right here in the middle.
Right.
This is the north side of the line right here. It's moving.
Because
It's
back
got
in
to
them
move
days
north.
weren't like where Canuck lives and like where I live, basically on the equator border, basically, wasn't it?
Yeah, on the equator or
Yeah,
a
this is
bit
not
south
showing
of it,
here.
depending on where you were at that
Right.
point in time.
Right. I'm assuming this is the equator right here, this white line, and it's going north. North America was here at this time, connected to Europe and Africa. And this is some 245 million years ago. This is all hypothetical, everybody. Strictly hypothetical. But this is what they're going mindset is in geology. And this is the latest of the smash up of all the continents. And they were all together at this time. And Australia is like way up here. And it went all the way around as North America went north.
Well, right, but wouldn't the Pacific plate and the North American plate had to ride over another plate to get where they're at now? I guess I'm just maybe phrasing it
Well,
wrong.
yeah, they would anyway, right? Because they go over the ocean
Oh,
plates,
shoot.
which I don't know what you call the ocean that was around Pangea. I don't even know if they gave it a name.
Right.
Like there would have been a gigantic ocean all around Pangea.
Right.
But I
Right.
don't know what it was called. Like
And
it
there-
wasn't. Yeah, you wouldn't call it the Pacific or the Atlantic or whatever. You'd call it jambalaya, like whatever name you wanted to give it, because it would be
And
like
they have.
Gigantic ocean.
And they have, yeah.
yeah, it would
mean,
be like
The
there'd be-
largest. Go ahead.
it'd be like a gigantic body of water around that. But out in that, there was probably islands, and if there was hot spots out there, it'd be making other little islands or big islands. And
Right.
this is like what they're doing with the mantle tomography when they go backwards because they're finding pieces of the oceanic crust
I'm gonna
in
work
the mantle,
You can hear
and then
it. I just gotta figure out
they
how
have
do
to
that.
figure out where
Well,
that
you can hear it.
oceanic crust came from. And that's what all this new stuff is that they're finding. So then they said, well, something out here had to make this stuff that crashed into North America back whenever, right?
Right.
So even if all the continents were together at one time, that doesn't mean there wasn't still like little drabs of stuff out there in the ocean.
Right.
Was
And
still
there's
crashing
still
into it later.
no proof that the Pacific Ocean didn't exist. The idea that it started real small and it grew and took over everything, because the Pacific Ocean is 2/3 of the world. The maps that we look at today, they're nowhere near the reality of how large that Pacific Ocean is. So I mean, Europe's pretty small, and you know, you can fit Europe inside the U.S. easily.
Yeah, but eventually they're saying the Pacific plate
Right.
will disappear, right?
Well, it's been disappearing, right? As the movement of North America and all the other continents have been moving and crunching into each other, it's been disappearing. And what do we have? Like, this is the Pacific Ocean. We think that it's, all roughly the size of North America and South America. It's not. It's way
bearing that the
bigger.
plates don't change direction again, too.
Yeah, it's moving at a northwest, right into the corner of Kamchatka. That's the direction it's moving, generally speaking.
Because the EPR is pushing the Pacific plate northwest.
That's the EPR from the bottom of New Zealand all the way up to the U.S. and into Canada.
But eventually, the South America will go over.
We'll go over the edge of it. Well,
yeah.
Well, it's got to get over the. What's interesting, and this is kind of a discussion that I was having with Clem. Clem, explain the reason you brought that question up to Canuck, and I appreciate that question because I wasn't totally grasping what you were trying to say. So I don't want to run over, what you're thinking here. And
What are you talking about? The plates changing direction, or the
yeah,
volcanoes we were talking about the other night?
yeah, the plates, and how I said, it overran a subduction zone, and you didn't know how that could happen. And you know what I'm saying?
Oh, what you're talking about, eastward subduction, and now it's a
Right.
westward subduction. And like
It's westward. Yeah.
the argument that I was making against Joe on it is that at some point the plate would have had to change directions to go from an eastward subduction now to a westward subduction, unless it ran over an expanding, like the mid-Atlantic ridge or something, bearing that.
Well, yeah, or another big trench.
Right. And the point that I was making is that in my mind, there was no way you could have eastward subduction and then it just changes direction without the plate changing direction somehow, some way. Doesn't matter if it's one plate or both plates.
And my argument was buoyancy. And the reason it didn't go under is because of buoyancy. And the Kieran Siglock theory that she has, where the candy plate that's down underneath North America over the East Coast was cut off as it went across that westward subduction. Yeah, because it's going east now. So the westward subduction cut it off, changed it, moved the rift westward, and then over time created, as it's approaching the EPR again, it broke the edge off, and we have a subduction up in the Pacific Northwest, which is kind of a weird subduction. And but the main crack of the EPR is like the San Andreas, where it's all the way through the mantle into the lithosphere. So it's all the way through the crust, all the way to the ground, all the way internally. And the existence of what I called wounds upon, because there's only way, I don't know how to explain it. Wounds upon North America is the Rio Grande Rift, the failed rifts that are, some people call them failed rifts, but I think they're wounds from an old rift as North America moved over the EPR, pushing the EPR westward, and after it ran over the subduction zone. Let me just cracked open a big boy soda. Okay. But I'm glad I caught this. All right, on Vampy. Are you off tomorrow there, Vampy, or you have to work? And Timmy's doing Jello shots. All right. I'm telling Mom. All right, so they're just talking BS here. So what is your take on how do you remember that study we did, Canuck, where Kieran said it was a westward subduction, then it stopped, it became eastward subduction, and as the plate moved west, it moved also the subduction zones and all of that?
Well, it's because of those little bodies of water, oceanic. Well, I don't even call them oceanic plates, because some were like smaller. It's just because there's so many smaller plates got subducted down the big trench, and sometimes it was westward subduction, and sometimes it was eastern.
Right.
Because there was the big honking thing out there in the water,
whatever that honking thing was.
Yeah, however many names they want to give it.
Right.
Because they give each part a different name, and then they have to come up with an ocean name that matches the water or the subducting plate that went under that was subducted that matches the stuff in the mantle. So that's what all these crazy names are that they come up with. So they said, well, this went under this way, and that's what's down in the mantle, and then they give it a name. And I can't even remember all the names now because there's so many names to them. And sometimes the same subducted plate or ancient plate has 3 different names, like the resurrection plate.
Right.
So
well,
it just depends on what one
on this. What was interesting, what Kanaka also said, which, I think we look these things quite a bit, is this became the Atlantic, spreading center. The EPR is not even on here.
No, not at that point.
Unless the EPR is underneath. And
well,
then
the Pacific plate is older than the Mid-Atlantic ridge, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
By a long shot.
So the EPR had to be there before.
Right. The idea of the EPR was once out here, and it went all the way through and became, or actually went this way.
But it was
started here, went all the way out.
Yeah, it was out in the Cucamonga Ocean.
Yeah,
it wasn't the Pacific then.
I've heard.
Yeah, the EPR is dragging the plate westward.
Right, and as it moved, this is at 140. Here's 100, here's 80, here's 60, here's 40, and it's out here. The San Andreas.
I think you would have to flop that around out into the Pacific Ocean, wouldn't you, Canuck? The EPR?
Well, it would be out like where the Pacific is, but it wasn't the Pacific.
As the plate's getting drugged westward, your EPR line would be east every time as the plate got drugged west.
Yeah, but it's going west because of the Mid-Atlantic ridge, right?
Or is it being
North
pulled?
America.
See, there's the push and the pull. There's the push of the Atlantic, and then there's the sinking up by Kamchatka, the pull down. As a plate gets heavy, as it goes down, it has weight, and it's the weight of this pull down, pulling the plate.
It's all waterlogged.
Yeah. That's a theory. That there's crust and there's lithosphere, right? And then and mixed in there is a lot of water too.
Because before the Mid-Atlantic ridge, it had to be going north to get it from where Pangea was up to where it is now. And then it started going west when the Mid-Atlantic ridge initialized and started pushing it apart. North America went west, but Europe went east, right? Because it depends on where it splits, right, and how it's pushing stuff apart.
Like what's happening in Africa.
The
southern part of Africa is rifting apart. The eastern part of Africa is rifting apart, but that rift still exists, and the wound exists too on all the way from one side to the other. And that's kind of what I'm saying. As North America moved away from the Atlantic, the EPR went with it. And wherever it was at 100, at 80, at 60, at 40, you have the Rio Grande, you have the Mississippi, and then you got the Appalachians, then you have Walker Lane, and then you have the San Andreas.
My question is why would the EPR be traveling the same direction as the plate?
Because the plate's moving it.
But wouldn't the EPR be like underneath the mantle and not move?
That's the
or is it up in the plate and moves with the plate?
Yeah, well, the spreading ridge is pushing the oceanic plates away from it, right?
like I have another one here.
So until that spreading ridge initializes, right, it's not pushing the
But
plates away from it.
Is the mid-Atlantic ridge actually pushing it apart, or is it being pulled apart from the North America plate and the Eurasia plate being pulled different directions?
Well, and this is where we were discussing yesterday, Canuck, and you weren't here, and you know, he's got some ideas, and they're valid ideas. This is the estimated 92 million year mark, what's on the screen right here, of North America, where there was a waterway right down the middle. And what I find it interesting is if you take out all those lines where all the states are, what do you see? You see North America on the right, that's the old craton, and something on the left that is old as well, but it's a huge igneous province. Although this is a shallow sea, they call it a waterway. It's not a deep ocean, but yet it is deep. There's a lot of shallow along the edges, and yet the interior is really deep. And there's a time when this drains, this water rises up and pours out, and you have the Great Lakes, you have what's going on up there in Canada, you know, the Hudson Bay or whatever you call it. All that's created out of this. And also what's created out of this is the Great Salt Lake area. You know, there's and this is before the Basin and Range ever happened. The Basin Range didn't start till 30 million years ago.
Yeah,
And
but you have to remember, though, too, if it was farther south, there wasn't any ice, right?
Right.
So you'd have more water.
So 92 million years. Yeah, there was, this thing was quite south still going kind of north and northwest. And then probably the same way the Pacific Ocean's going right now. And it started to, I think it arced. And right now it's going southwest. And
if more stuff smashed into it from the west, it would start lifting it up too, right?
Right. And so the eastward and westward subduction happens. The end of the westward subduction happens around from 92 to 120. This is also the same time period that Sierra Nevadas were created. And the first initial mountains of up in the Pacific Northwest. And yet they didn't exist on North America yet. So with the images that were given from these geologists, the timetables are all over the place. And so we're left to kind of to bring things together, find what the hell. I mean, what do you do with the Rio Grande Rift, which is still a sore on the crust today, still active, all the way up? You know, you got Valles, or Valle, whatever you call it, that super volcano. You've got Wawa Springs, which is right about here. And in 60 million years, it blows up. Then you got, and you know, Yellowstone's not even on this map yet. It's still well off the coast. I mean, you got another 40 million years before it hits the coast of North America. It's like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah, when did it hit the coast? About 25 million years ago, wasn't it?
50. Same time Silesia smashed in. Same time all this smashed into all this. And then the Basin Range started about 30 million years ago. That's when Valles was, or no, that's even younger than that. I mean, Wawa Springs, that was 30. So Yellowstone at 30 million years was in just about the area of northeastern Nevada and California at 30 million years. So we have to remove all these lines. These lines, they're the ones that are confusing us. So if we take what they're saying, the geologists, then we're trying to match it up with the, it's backward masking basically. How do you roll everything back and move everything out and go, wait a minute, how does this happen?
Well, and what they're saying is the Yellowstone hotspot made Silesia and Rangelia way out in the whatever ocean
But
it's called.
that's still a theory. We got
60
Rangelia
million
at
years
110 million years ago, and we have Silesia at 55 million years ago. The big whale, so to speak. Professor Nick was saying, Demon Sterling's talking. I lived in Nebraska my whole life, and this is accurate. Yeah, it was underwater, and the Great Plains. The Rockies didn't start. I mean, there's two sections of the Rockies: the Laramide and the Sevier. Both of those mountain building orogenies happened at two different eras. One, right around when Rangelia smacked into North America or into that end of it. Two, the Sevier happened when Silesia smacked into it. And you got all the rocks, all the mountains there in Utah happening at that time. So there's this squish, way inland. I mean, way inland for those mountains just all of a sudden go straight up in the air right there on the other side of Salt Lake City.
Well, doesn't that kind of prove in the point, if you look back at the picture of Pangea when everything was smashed together, everything was above ground. Now, at your picture there, 92 million years ago, the Great Plains, the eastern side of the Rockies is all underwater. So wouldn't that show that the plate at that time was thinned out?
Yeah. You can't look at the topography on here. This is something he added.
Right. But since you got a shallow sea in there, doesn't that show that the North American plate is getting dragged westward versus it being pushed? Because at that time, the eastern side of the Rockies all the way to Minnesota, I mean, I'm just using the lines that are there, but showing that it's all underwater.
Yeah, let me ask you a question with Canuck. Do you remember the years of the Appalachians, how tall they were? Was that 200 million years ago? That was their height?
No, it was way back, like 350.
Okay, so it's way, 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 way back. Okay.
Yeah, the Appalachians are like way older.
All right. And as North America moved over, if we just look on a show on stream here, as North America moved over, and I'll find here where I can zoom it in for you.
Because the Appalachians were created when
there's
a smashed together to make Pangea.
Huge shelf. Huge, when it was massive Pangea. Shelf that is the runoff from the Appalachians this way. But on the interior, the Appalachians runoff goes into the Mississippi, Alabama and all that in there, and filled in so much of the lowlands.
Everything west of the peak of the Appalachians runs into the Mississippi or the Great Lakes.
Mm-hmm. And the Great Lakes were way larger than they are now. They were way, way, way bigger. And they're small now, and they're getting smaller, going out to St. Lawrence.
Back in them days, you had Lake Agassiz too, up northwest of the Great Lakes.
Yep, and several of the other ones. The one right out here, but we're talking now closer to modern day, when the last ice age happened, 16 million years ago. Then there's the concept where something happened and it melted the ice in North America. radically real fast, and then it got cold again. And Conan the Invincible, right on. So there's Planet. She's Vampy, you're sweet. I really have to go now. Starts in an hour. All right. Be safe, Vampy. Thank you. You'll be able to watch this recording. Have a good night. Hopefully you're off tomorrow on the 4th of July. But again, all of these different arguments, kind of really describe the dilemma that we're in, because we have certain scientists are saying this, other scientists are saying that. And because they're so pigeonholed into their private studies, they don't take into account somebody else's study. And what we're trying to do is trying to glean from all these studies and bring them together. And that's kind of what Professor Nick's doing. Yet he has a job to do too, to promote his college. So he's got to stay within certain limitations. So there's that. And I'm convinced that the EPR North America ran over it, and because I see it down here in Baja, and I think because they ran over it as the EPR is moving away from North America, it moved out from under it and it tore some of Mexico off, and the whole West is moving north, and that's something kind of new to a lot of people, the concept of Baja to BC. There's a Laramide line and a severe line, which they overlap between 140 down to 35 million years. And there's a 702 line, which they say everything west of the 702 was underwater. They never really say what time. And then Silesia smashing onto into it and changing it. And then there's the split of this plate, the Farallon plate, opening up and creating a window where it's more shallow up here as it subducts, but it's more severe down here in Portland to California. It's more severe, the subduction, and it falls off, but it's more flat up here. And the LA people from University of Southern Cal, they all think that there was a flat subduction all the way into Colorado's New Mexico, versus being brought very sharp and when North America went over it. So there's a lot of different ideas that are floating out there.
Well, and what they're finding now, that certain sections of the plates are subducting at different rates and different angles. So like the JDF, and then I was reading about all the new stuff on the Explorer plate, which is the little microplate at the top, and it's actually going at a different rate, or now some even argue it stopped. It's actually been added on to North America already, because where the quakes are happening now are at the top,
right,
where the Queen Charlotte triple junction is. So that's Explorer plate in the Queen Charlotte fault, which is high to Gly, basically. And then where the quakes are happening today, which is at the bottom of the Explorer plate, but it's the top of the JDF spreading ridge. And what they're saying, the new stuff that I read today, is that break between the Explorer plate and the JDF, which now they've they called it the Nootka fault zone before, but now they've broken it into a north segment and a south segment.
Mm-hmm.
And they've gone back the last 20 years and mapped all the quakes on it. And they've figured out that it goes one or the other, like the northern part or the southern part. And it's going in towards Vancouver Island. And it's like a southwest to northeast. And they say it's like a actual plate boundary between the Explorer plate and the JDF plate itself. And that's where that swarm was that happened earlier today, because it actually started out on the Pacific plate. It crossed the JDF ridge and is now on the JDF side. But if you look where it is, it looks like it's going in towards Vancouver Island.
Yeah, I'm going to share. I'm going to share with you another map. These are the earthquakes from 1700 that are 6.5 and larger. And remember where these 4 quakes are right now. These, you got all this happened today. Okay, here's the big long arm right there. Okay, now watch this. Check that out. There's the big long arm. Look where the quakes are, and it goes right across into Vancouver. And that's what Canuck is saying, that these large quakes here and these large quakes here, the north and the south, that this is part and parcel. Now is thought of as act different than the southern section from here south. And the studies that I've seen, and I'll tell you, I did 6.5 and above, and I went all the way down to right down here. This don't quake, this whole section, since 1700. We have right down in here in the Olympic Peninsula, part of Silesia, part of Rangelia, when it first smashed up again, it, so they think. Or it may have just, came up here and left deposits and kept going north. Because it all went north. And it's interesting to see larger quakes where they happen versus the smaller quakes, because you can make it so many of them, and you can't make heads or tails of them. That's why I did only 6.5 and above. And you can see the big quakes. I mean, big 7.5, 7.4, 7.5. Yeah. So, and that's from 1700 to current. 26 earthquakes I did on my search. And today, you'll see these quakes are happening along that same kind of line. So
it's going in towards Vancouver Island.
Vancouver Island. Yeah.
And now they're thinking the big quakes that happened on Vancouver Island in 1946, 1918, and 1957 are all related to how that comes in there.
Right.
So that's what they're arguing in these new studies. Now, they did like
1946. What were the 3 numbers? 1946,
46, 57, and 1918 were the big Vancouver Island quakes. And they think that's all related to this plate boundary between Explorer plate and JDF plate, which they've named the Nootka Fault because it comes in where Nootka Sound is. And
6.9, 1918. 2014, I remember that one, 6.5.
Yeah, and in the new study I read, they used the last 20 years of seismicity that they've been monitoring it. So they had the quakes listed from 2004, 2011, 2014, which were all 6s. And this is another thing that was cool about it. When I looked at the map, it makes a triangle. Which they never pointed that out, but when I looked on the map that they had, so between their data they were using was between I think 2000 and 2021. It was like 20 years worth of data, but they pointed out the biggest quakes that happened up there and where they were in relation to this Nootka Fault, which is now actually wide. It reminds me of Liniment because they made it wider, because there's a northern part and then there's a southern part, and if you look at the tomography or if you look at it on Google Earth, you can see that there's like seamounts on either side, and it's going southwest to northeast right up, and you can see the quakes going right up it when you look at it on the quakes on Google Earth. And that's what it's doing.
Here's Google Earth right here, and you can see right up here is where the quakes are.
Because I've been trying to figure out how it works, because I've been watching all the ones
here.
that they usually, on the Canadian side, it's always so many kilometers from Tofino. That's what they put it.
That's their basic.
Yeah, well, Tofino's also where Justin Trudeau's summer house is. So, but that I find that funny. But he's probably there right now.
Yeah, with his boyfriend. Yeah, hugging each other's. Anyway, I'm not going to go any further.
And then the other quakes that happen are usually up at the top, which is at the top of Explorer Plate, which is closer to Haida Gwaii. So it's basically North Vancouver Island, the very tip, and Haida Gwaii, and they usually list those ones out of Port Hardy.
Yeah, Port Hardy, yep. And that's on the Vancouver.
Yep.
Right.
But basically, it's top of Explorer Plate, bottom of Explorer Plate.
Yeah, there's the Springfield Seamounts right there, and in the southern portion. The northern portions have the Delwood Seamounts and the Seminole Seamounts. Basically, what that is a land rise under the water that has a flat top. So it's an up push with Putin. Oh man, whatever. I don't think Putin would be there because Putin's not a Nazi lover. He hates Nazis, so he says. And Trudeau's a Nazi.
Yeah, Putin's out with the Shatsky rise. That's where he is.
Yeah,
hiding all the subs.
Yeah, right. So we have some interesting stuff happening along the west coast of the United States right now. And I'll share that again. Right there, share it. And as we say, okay. And there we go. Look at what's happened along the west coast. This just today on a USGS. Whereas over the last, weeks, months, nothing was happening. But it just so happens on the, third anniversary? Wait, we're in the 2004, 2019, the fifth anniversary, right?
Yep.
We're the fifth anniversary of Ridgecrest.
Yeah, time flies.
Yeah, and it's looky. Looking at things from a distance, then versus zoomed in like this. I can. Well, that's on the train. I'll do the all day just today. That'll give you an interesting look. Look at this out here from Vancouver, or those out there going clear across the United States. Then you got out here to Baja or Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. Look at that line. The Texas lineament's this one. Goes in here. That's the Olympic lineament.
Yeah.
There are multiple lineaments that we recognize across North America. And some of them, people have them bending because I think they conflate, a couple of them. Or, they're 200 miles wide, a lineament, or 50 miles wide. Some I think are stronger, some I think are weaker, and some I think are vibrate more or vibrate less. But interesting, you see right off of this font right out here. Look at this. We've been seeing that a little bit more lately. Coming across. And here's Long Valley right there. That's a super volcano. Oakhurst, boom, 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 boom. Palmetto, Goldfire, right? Interesting. These are just earthquakes today. Here's Ridgecrest going, right? This is an explosion from drilling or working. Look at this straight line. Weird. And I didn't see these two boys here, 2.3, 1.7 Barstow. The Mojave Desert, it's quite large, but it's had 3 7s in the last 40 years. Yeah. 1992, 1999, and Ridgecrest, which is the top of it. Basically, Garlock is the borderline.
Yep. And I was looking up historical stuff on Jan Mayen and Svalbard today for the biggest quakes there. And the biggest one that they've recorded, Svalbard Jan Mayen, was 92, the same year, on the same liniment line as the Landers quake.
Oh, and 92.
Yeah, because I started looking up all these historical quakes in Svalbard and Jan Mayen. Well, the Colorado liniment connected to the Great Lakes tectonic zone goes right to between Jan Mayen and Svalbard. So this thing I was looking at had all the quakes listed going back, I think it was like to 1900, that they had records of that were between Jan Mayen and Svalbard. So, of course, I ordered it by like the biggest ones because it was easier to find the biggest ones first. So then I wanted to find out which were the biggest ones up there. And then, because I already know the years of all these other quakes, right, that I've studied already. Then when I see a date for what's up there, I said, oh, look, crap, that was like 2 months before this one.
Yeah. Starts to make a little sense then, doesn't it?
Yeah, on the same lines that I'm watching now. Right? And it's the same thing. Just like when I did today with the quake we got here in New Brunswick.
Yeah, which is wild, getting yours.
Yeah, I started looking up the same line, and there was 2.9s in Iceland today on the, like, if I kept going on the same line up there at a volcano called, what was the name of it? Prestanuker. Translated to English, it's called Priest Peak. It's 2 priests mapped it back, I don't know, in the 1700s or something like that. So that's how it got that name. But anyway, so they've done all these studies on it since, and it's like going up, it's more towards central Iceland, but it's on the same direction, going northeast. And they found out that it erupted back 900 AD. So basically the same time as New Madrid was going off, Seattle Fault, and all that stuff that we studied before. So I thought that was interesting.
Right.
And it's coming down the same line as the fault that goes past me, which actually has the name of our town in it because it's the Woodstock Catamaran Fault, it's called. And that's what it, and it's the northern edge of the Miramichi terrain.
Right. The Walker check, according to this, location of major basement lineaments of western United States, the sense of strike slip offset is shown by arrows northwesterly lineaments are right lateral, northeasterly lineaments are left lateral. The stress strain ellipsoids is oriented such that the max compression stress is directed from the north. And you can see on your map here, this is the Olympic Ouachita lineament, and it kind of bends over, right? And then here's the Walker, Texas lineament. It comes off of just offshore. And again, I bring that all the way through. And then the San Andreas system here. These are real. And here's the Colorado one that comes right out of whatever into Southern Cal, and that's what Kanaka's saying. Right through, what was that, Minnesota?
Yeah, it goes to central Minnesota, and then that's where the Great Lake tectonic zone goes. It starts in central Minnesota and goes through Sudbury, Ontario, where all the gigantic nickel mines are. And if you keep that going, which is what I do, I just keep extending it out.
Goes right through Jan Mayen and Svalbard.
Yep. And that's what I do. And then I look on these lines for previous examples of quakes and volcanic eruptions, because I found out too that the big quakes that happened in Canada along that same line, like in Quebec, happened when Jan Mayen was having volcanic eruptions.
All right. So we have a question from Dub. Too many straight lines to ignore if you ask me. What's the connection in between Walker and West Coast Plate is that Garlock. I see what you're saying here. Let me.
Garlock is more an east-west one. Like we're talking
Right
about
here.
the obvious ones right now, like the ones that are northwest to southeast on the west coast, because the ones on the east coast are mainly
Garlock.
northeast to southwest. So it depends on where you are, which ones you're focusing on, right? So the ones on the west coast are mainly northwest to southeast, although there are other ones that go the opposite way. Garlock,
because the
Garlock is
Colorado liniment comes right through there. Garlock is part of that, like the northern arm of the Colorado liniment that crisscrosses it. If you want to keep, drawing it, but also it's not the only one that's there. It's not 29 Palms, but it's Joshua Tree. If you remember in '92, the Joshua Tree earthquake that happened prior to Landers, and it was down here and the Chuckwalla area, and I've found that Garlock is not the only one that goes virtually east-west or west-east. There's another one that traverses.
I think Mendocina, Virginia is another one that goes east-west.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what's interesting about these is you have the Mendocino that goes all the way across. You got the Murray fracture zone that goes all the way across. That's Garlock.
Yeah.
Well,
and I think Garlock goes all the way across. It goes right under Memphis and goes straight through Charleston.
Yeah, that's what he thinks, and he's calling that basically a liniment. It's a subsurface liniment that attracts attention, and how that attracts attention, I think we're playing with a few different ideas, but
I think they're all magnetic field lines that come from the core.
Yeah, I was trying to be polite on that, because I do believe the magnetic anomalies that happen in the planet, not that necessarily they create quakes or they're moving the land mass, but they seem to attract, vibrations. And what is a vibration? And we measure it as in a frequency. Frequency is just a measurement tool. And the lineaments, the measurement tool for the lineaments are earthquakes.
Well, and another way to look at it, it's not the main factor that causes an earthquake. It just could be a contributing factor.
Well, to me, all the quakes is it moving?
Yeah.
That's all quakes are, right?
I think they're evidence of what's happening invisible, what's going on invisibly. We can't see what's going on. So they're evidence of something happening. Like, the Olympic Ouachita, it's clearly activated. Texas liniment was super activated, a week or two ago?
Yeah, well, it still is now.
And then we have the Pacific plate being bumped up against North America, and I got to say the chicken leg is a moving. And when I say the chicken leg moving, I'm just telling you that the Pacific plate's moving. And
if you look at the new models for the hurricane, guess where they have it going right now?
I haven't checked.
Heading right for Corpus Christi in Houston.
I said the Texas liniment. Oh my gosh. Oh, no way. Because earlier it was coming into Mexico down here.
Now they've all changed it. It's curving up more right to where.
Let's go ahead and take a look before we close.
This was like 2 hours ago when I saw the new models.
Oh, man. Yep.
I know Jamaica got slammed pretty hard.
Yeah, it did. No joke about that. Those poor people took a
they took a shit kicking is what they took.
But well, I find it so funny because they're trying to figure why is Beryl so charged up? What's going on? this is what the big debate is. Well, it's
following the liniment.
It's following the Texas liniment. So that's
and the Texas liniment is charged because of what's been happening with the solar activity.
It's been blowing all their expectations away.
Yeah.
And some of them even been saying that. The solar people are saying, well, is this being charged by all the solar stuff that's happening?
Well, what
Like
is
some of them are even suggesting that now, but of course they're not talking about
what is negatively charged ions, right? And positive charged ions. How does a hurricane create? Just the mechanics of how a hurricane is created. And if you think along a certain line, and it's invisible, again, a hurricane's telling you what's happening in the invisible realm. The natural is speaking of the supernatural, if you want to call it that, the invisible. So the earthquakes themselves, they're just telling us something's happening in that other realm, and the evidence is seen in the ground shaking. So everybody's trying to figure out what the hell's ground shaking, but they don't look at why the ground, the mechanism behind it. What's the earthquake telling us? Oh, it's just bouncing up against another plate, rocks breaking. That's what earthquakes are.
Well, if
No,
you
a
look
little bit more
on,
than
I
that.
looked on the firm's map last night on where the Texas liniment is, and there's actually a fire down by Corpus Christi, and you can see a line of fires going right up the Texas liniment.
Let's go ahead and check it out. Sure the hell is. Oh my gosh. You can see it right up there. And then the Wachita's got it going too. Look at that. Wow. Yeah. And then we got our hot spots going northwest to southeast, or southwest, northeast to southwest. Those are happening as well.
And the big fire by
Super
Oroville.
subjective.
By
Everything
Oroville.
yeah.
By Oroville, I was watching last night, and they were saying, we don't know what started the fire. Where did it come from? Because it was like right next to the town. It started going. They had to get everybody out of there because it was burning everything up. They don't know how it started or who started it or whatever. They're saying they were all in a big panic, saying, we don't know how this started, and the wind hasn't started blowing yet. How is this fire going? Because it was supposed to be like a north wind later that night, but the fire was going like everywhere, and they were all like saying, what the crap's going on? Because it caught them all off guard, because I was listening to like all the scanner stuff there that's on Catherine's.
I tell you, everybody, he has a
thing.
triple-decker brain, man. He's got his brain plugged into so many things.
So
that's my boy Canuck, and I love every minute of it too. The everything that I'm going to qualify everything we've said tonight. Everything is very subjective. It's our observations coupled with reading papers that lead towards an understanding of what we're observing. And then there are, outside the box thinking, and not being limited by saying, I'm only going to talk geophysical. I'm only going to talk geospatial. I'm only going to talk physics, or I'm only going to talk, geology or weather. I think they're all related. And I won't say more than that, because there's mixed company out there, and I don't want to say more than that. But understand this. This is just our observations, and we welcome your discussions. We welcome your input, putting it in chat, putting it in a message. You can always reach us at jsldiscussion@gmail.com. You can shoot us a line. If you have some ideas, you have some thought processes that you think would fit right in with what we're saying, or if you want to fine tune what we're saying, or if you want to add to it, or if you'd like to be on one of these rabbit holes, you can, go out there and get to know us, and we'll try to do that. We'll try to make that happen.
Yeah, I would highly recommend it. If you got an idea, maybe it's just best you come on and explain your idea on the air, and we can take it from there.
Yeah, and all those fires that are up there in Labrador and Quebec are between the Great Lakes tectonic liniment and the St. Lawrence one. So the fires are in between those two.
Right.
And that's why I was looking up Jan Mayen and Svalbard, because I wanted to find out how many quakes were happening up there. So I went back a month, and there's been 18 quakes above 2.5.
There's a fire going next to Ridgecrest too, he says.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
superheated
crazy
line.
stuff.
Yeah, and we talked quite a lot about that Dub Diesel in regards to
It's more charged lines.
Yeah.
But heat is part of it.
yeah, and heat is what movement, right? Fast,
Yeah.
more aggressive movement. If you strung a guitar string, it does affect other lineaments. So it does kind of, if one's like being really buzz, 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 and it's
you got pressure transferring from
yeah
one
Yeah,
element to the
like
next.
if one is supercharged, the next ones to either side of it will react to it, which I think
Correct.
that's the triangle thing.
It gets like the reverb off of it.
Yeah, like a reverb. Yeah. Well, it's 8:34 here already. We're an hour and 25. I don't want to get kicked off the other channels. And we can continue the discussion, but I got to stop here for YouTube. I got to stop here for Facebook and X. So you have anything else you want to conclude here or kind of sum it up? Clem, you have anything you'd like to say, or you want to?
It's a work in production. It really is.
Mhm.
Try to figure out what makes the planet tick.
Yeah, and that's what all this is, and it's all related to space weather. So you got to understand space before you can understand the planet.
Well, see, the planet's in space.
Yeah.
You have to know your boundaries, before you can dig into the meat of whatever you're doing.
But you have to have rocks in your head to fill in the space to figure out how it all works.
Or you're just an airhead.
Or gas, I was gonna say.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's Scooby Doo.
Well, the gas is what explodes the rocks out of the ground. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We're going to be talking a lot about those things here. Over the next, I think he's going to start it in November, but he's going to have other shows. I'm talking about Professor Nick. I call him Professor Nick. Nick Zentner. Again, he's a recruiter for his college, and I appreciate Central Washington College, University, CWU. Great dude. He has brought geology to a lot of people who have these kinds of interests, and he's kind of also, corrected us a little bit when we're a little bit wonky, and also he's been corrected himself by learning as much as we are at the same time presenting like we are here. I find it very, very, very odd that what we're doing here on JSL is like what he's doing there. And it kind of dovetails. I really appreciate what he's doing. Canuck, is there anything else you want to add?
No, I just think we're way more radical than even Nick, but who knows? He may end up being more radical too. It just depends on all the stuff he does and what.
Right.
Well, maybe as time goes along, he might figure out that the way we think about it's made closer to what it actually is, and may become more radical at the same time.
Well, yeah, but he has to just progress beyond just the Pacific Northwest.
Right.
This is the issue. It's like a global thing, right? If you stay in your lane, you're not going to get anywhere, because the lane, if it's a lineament, actually goes the whole way around the world. So you got to keep traveling on that.
Well, the end of the lane leads to a brick wall.
Yeah. Well, actually, it could go under the brick wall and keep going.
I was waiting for that.
That's if you got your eyes open, bud.
Yeah, because we put the brick wall there.
I think
we made a natural barrier that we created.
Yeah, we put our own limitations on. Yeah,
that's what we do with everything, right?
Right.
What an interesting discussion. tonight. I appreciate y'all.
I appreciate it too, because it's fun for me to listen to you guys and, to be able to ask the questions, and I learn a lot every time.
Yeah, it's always fun because there's always something that happens where you learn more stuff.
Well,
Right?
see, I believe that everybody has a deposit in them, and I'm seeing a picture of Scooby Doo.
Yeah, even when we don't know what's going to happen, something else happens that
Yeah,
makes us be able to talk about something. So
yeah,
it
and
works.
thanks so much, guys. Again, we're an hour and 30 minutes online over there, and I know they probably cut us off on Facebook, but so fun. Hey, enjoy your 4th. For those who celebrate it, it's my second favorite holiday. My first favorite is Thanksgiving. But these are, I'm not going to be able to blow anything up. I know Scooby's going to be blowing something up, but I don't want to know what it is.
Yeah, you don't want to start any fires in the backyard and have to put
No. I actually went out there with the weed whacker and whacked some weeds up against the fence so that if there was a fire, it wouldn't. There's a road, and then there's a 5-foot section, and then there's my fence. So I weed whacked it. So killed the weeds. And so if there is a fire, it's not going to go much. I might be able to knock it down with a hose or something. I don't know. But there is a field across the 2-lane highway. So I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be all right. But yeah, big hugs to y'all. Thanks so much. And wow, what a night. Don't want to get burned out because Saturday's coming, and might do another one on Saturday. I enjoyed doing Saturdays as well. We'll see how it goes. Canuck, Are you available on Saturday?
Yeah, I should be.
All right.
I should be, unless I'm out in the lake.
Well, it's 7:00, man. Yeah, love you, Dub. Good to see you. Beth is here.
Thank you all for listening. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, Conan, and I remember seeing Conan for a while now. It's good to see you, Conan. And anyway, yeah, morning report. I think we showed that, right?
Better throw it in just at the end.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now.
Hi, I'm Joe of Joe Slick Live Show. My interactive live show is on twitch.tv/Joe.
God, it's quiet, isn't it?
Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, and occasionally in the evenings at 7. During the live show, I review and talk about reports from government, private, and other reporting agencies and websites regarding celestial and terrestrial phenomena. Topics will include solar flares, sunspots, geomagnetic storms, and near-Earth asteroids and comets that are being monitored around the world. Included in the report is current events in the last 12 to 24 hours here on Earth, consisting of volcanic, seismic, and weather events. I close the morning report off with what's happening in the local and world news. Thank you, and you can be a part of the morning report by going to twitch.tv/Joe Slick Live. Look forward to seeing you there, and remember, don't get none on you.
And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And appreciate y'all. Appreciate you. Thank you, Canuck. Thank you, Clem. Love you, bro.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks, everybody. And thank you for your tips and your subscriptions. They do help build the studio here at Joe Slick Studios. And we are growing. And as you can tell, we have a couple of sponsors now. But anyway, big hugs, y'all. Thanks a whole lot. Don't get none on you. Are you live in the AM? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll be live in the AM. Yes, sir. Sitting by the pool watching the pup eat my planters. All righty. We love our sponsors. Yeah. All right. Hang in there and don't get none on you, and we'll close this up.